Everyone in here. So Genesis 7:17 through 24. Let's get it. It says, now the flood was on the earth 40 days. The waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth, and all the hills under the whole heaven were covered. The waters prevailed 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved on the earth, birds and cattle and beasts, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life. All that was on dry land died. So he destroyed all living things that were on the face of the ground, both man and cattle, creeping thing and bird of the air. They were destroyed from the earth. Only Noah and those who were with him in the ark remained alive. Verse 24 says, and the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. Just for a title, I want you to say this in your best singing voice. I want you to look at somebody right in your best singing voice, and I want you to say, can you stand the rain? Y'all knew what it was. Now, let's say it one more time. Let's say it together. 5, 6, 7. Come on, say, can you? Can? There you go. Y'all see, some of y'all knew that psalm. Y'all knew that was Psalm 152. Y'all knew it. But can you, now for real, don't sing it this time. Say it real. Say it for real. Say, can you stand the rain? Oh, we ready to go get it today, because see, there comes a time, there comes a place in your life where you're reminded, you have to remind yourself of God's promises. And so what happens is you got to remember what God said. You got to remember why he called you. You got to remember what he called you to, because sometimes everything around you will seem like turmoil is going on, but you have to remember what God said. You got to remember what he said, because you got to at some point believe that if he said it, then it will happen. Anybody waiting on something that God told them? Anybody waiting? You waiting. You wait. You can raise your hand. That's all right if he ain't done all the things yet. Anybody waiting on God to do something? You sometimes got to remind yourself, God, I don't even know why I'm in this place, but I got to believe you because you said it. She said she hadn't been on this stage. She hadn't been able to walk up here in a whole year, y'all. At some point when you sitting at home and you believe in God saying that he going to heal you, and you believe that God said he going to do that thing, but you ain't walking that good, and you sitting there and you looking out the window. It get to be rainy looking outside when you can't move around. Can you stand the rain? How are you doing when you're in that place and God is supposed to be protecting you and he's supposed to be doing something through you, but it don't look like it? Woo! Y'all, I got excited when I began to study this, because sometimes we make it real simple what Noah went through. Noah went through some craziness. Some of us couldn't go 1 week of rain. He went through 40 days and 40 nights of rain. Some of us been praying for 10 minutes. Some of you been praying for 10 years. But you got to look at your situation, and you got to hear what God, and you got to understand, can you stand the rain? And sometimes what God promised us, it's tough, but it's got to be enough to keep us. Because that one word from God can save humanity. That one word from God can change your family. That one promise from God can change this city. That one word from God can change your whole career trajectory. That one word from God. But you got to be able to stand the rain. Can you stand the rain in your marriage? Can you stand the rain at your job? Can you stand the rain in your friendships? Can you stand the rain with your boo and them situationships? Can you stand the rain? But it ain't easy, y'all, because the thing is, because even when God saves you, he doesn't always spare you from the rain. But he keeps you through the rain. And we got to be careful at even how we look at the rain, because even though you walking out what God said, sometimes it can be lonely. It can be tired. It can be frustrating. It can be all of these things. So sometimes we're holding on to the promises of God, and we think just because he said he was going to do something and because he gave us a plan for it, that it's going to be easy. How many know it don't always work like that? See, some of us are trying to get to the place where God called us to, but you cannot get distracted by the sound of the rain. And you've got to understand that if God made you a promise, then he will preserve you long enough for that promise to be seen. See, so we got Noah. Noah's the son of Lamech, and he's the grandson of Methuselah. Back in the day, you know, when you wanted to act like you knew something, you'd be like, well, who's the oldest man to ever live? That's kind of stuff that I grew up with. I was kind of nerdy. Don't pick on me. It's whatever. But you would say stuff like, well, Noah was this age, but his daddy didn't see death, so technically he was older than him. Those are kind of arguments you have when you be in vacation Bible school. Anybody had those arguments? And so Noah, so here we have Noah. And so Noah, the crazy thing is, we don't hear anything about Noah until he is 500 years old. And so Noah at this point has lived 2/3 of his life until he begins to do the thing that God called him to do. Stop thinking that God can't use you just because you're a little bit older. Stop downplaying the vision that God gave you just because you in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s or your 70s. Stop downplaying it. Noah lived 2/3 of his life before we even hear anything about him. And it took him at least 100 years to do what God said. What can God do through you at your 35 and 45 and 55 and 65, 75, 75, got 80, got 80? Stop downplaying what God can do at whatever age. And so Noah is married. He's got three sons. He's got Shem, Ham, and Japheth, however you pronounce it. And what happens is the Bible says that Noah is a righteous man. And so the flood doesn't begin to take place at least until 100 years after we're introduced to him. And so that means it took Noah a long time to do the thing that God called him to. How many of y'all are patient enough for it to wait that long before what God said was going to happen is going to happen? How many of y'all are willing to build what God called you to build for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years because you know that what he called you to will save your family. It will save humanity. It will save your friends. It will help the people around you. How many of y'all got that kind of faith to build something that God called you to for 100 years? For people that may not have even seen rain yet. And so we've got to make sure we understand that when God calls us to do something, it don't mean it's going to be easy, but it means that if you pursue, God will preserve you because God keeps his promises. I need you to look at somebody and say, God keeps his promises. And so what's happening, let's look at it. Genesis 6, 5-9. It says, then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was evil continually. And he grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing, birds of the air, for I am sorry that I made them. But Noah, I need you to highlight, and if you got a pen or pencil, I need you to circle, but Noah. And what I want you to do, I want you to write in the parentheses, I want you to write your name right there. But Noah, but Terry, but Elder Cooper, but Aaron, but Annette. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So what's happening? The earth is corrupt, so much so that God regretted that he had made man. When I was reading this, I began to think about what's going on in the world right now. In some cases, it's so corrupt, I got to wonder, God, man, how do you feel about this? What is going on with the world? It reminds me of what was going on then. And so God had decided that it's so much corruption that is going on right now that I'll just start over. But Noah found favor with God. Don't downplay the favor that you have with God. And I got to believe that Noah had gotten to the place where it was like, out of all of these people in the whole world, you found favor with me. Do you know how big of a deal that is? Do you know how big of a deal in a corrupt government situation, God continues to find favor with you. Do you know how crazy it is that with all these shutdowns and people losing their job, God continues to find favor with you? Do you know how crazy it is that you want the last one to get hired, but you are still there because God found favor with you? I need somebody to shout, God found favor with me. You ought to get excited because you found favor with him. Oh, doors get opened with favor. Rooms that you weren't even supposed to be in come from favor. Jobs that you weren't supposed to have, that's favor. I need you to look at somebody and say, I am favored. This is not my message. But if you can stand the rain, God has a plan for you. Oh, man, I done got worked. I don't know why I put these buttons on my sleeves today. And we get to shout, and we get to holler, and we get to be so excited because we're talking about somebody else. But can you imagine working 100 years for something that people are mocking you about? Oh, when they changed the funding, and they said they're not going to give you the funding no more. When they changed the job description, and they said we don't need your position no more. When they gave you a new manager. Can you imagine building something that you know is not for you, but it's for God for 100? Can you imagine the kind of ridicule Noah had to go through? So yes, God saved him and his family. But do you know what this man had to go through to get to that place? So let's keep looking. Verse number 9, it says this is, you don't have to turn. It says this is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a just man. It says he was perfect in his generations. And it said Noah walked with God. But what that meant, though, because see, y'all got excited about the favor. What that meant is Noah had integrity. So it doesn't mean he didn't have any flaws. But what it meant is that Noah had integrity. I need you to understand that God will honor your integrity. People will honor your integrity. And integrity is the firm adherence to a code of especially moral, artistic values. Bottom line, you stand by your word. You do what is right. You are an honorable person. You would be surprised at how many businesses go out of business simply because they're not honorable in what they say they do. They don't show up on time. You lose friendships over people that don't do or keep their word. But God honored Noah's integrity. Do you have integrity? Do you have integrity? And so as we continue to look, verse number 13, it said God tells Noah this great plan. I want you to build this ark. But how many know that that just when God gives you a plan or something, that plan ain't just about you? That plan is so much bigger. It's so much greater than just you. It was for God to replenish the earth, and Noah and his family were the only people that were allowed to get on this ark. So your job, it ain't just about you. Your neighborhood, it ain't just about you. The street that you live on ain't just about you. Your family, the gift that God has given you, the call that God has on your life, it's not just for you. You got to understand that what you are called to do, Tafana, is so much bigger than you. Sean, it's so much bigger than you. Jeff, it's so much bigger than you. Y'all got to understand that the gifts and the calling and the assignment that God has on your life, if you can stand the rain, can change this world. So we got to stop downplaying the assignment that God has on us. Verse 6, Genesis 6:18, it says, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And through this, God was going to replenish the earth through one man. See, so often when we begin to think about God's plan, we think that since God gave it to us, we should just be able to walk it out. And we should just be able to do it, and it shouldn't be no doors closed. I see you laughing over there, Minister Janae. We think it ought to just come real natural. We think, okay, I heard from the Lord, and I'm just going to do it like this, and everything is going to be all right. How many know it don't work like that? If God has ever given you something, you still got to be willing to deal with the rain that comes along with that thing. Woo! And the crazy part is sometimes the conditions that you have to go through seem like, why did I even take this job on in the first place? Because God will give you a calling, but then he will give you terms and conditions. In the Bible, it says, if my people which are called by my name will humble themselves and pray. Your terms and conditions are humble themselves and pray. It reminds me of the side effects of medicine. Y'all watch some of these commercials, and it'd be like, if you're struggling with a big toe, ingrown toenail, you can take this Yamaha medicine. But this medicine may come with diarrhea, broken ribs, torn lung, emphysema, and you might not be able to walk on Tuesdays and blindness in your right eye. And so then you have to decide, do I take the medicine or do I just deal with the ingrown toenail? Now, this might not be for you, but has God ever called you to do something and you just contemplated, God, I don't even know if I want to put myself through those terms and conditions. I'd rather just sit right there on the third row and not do what you call me to. Anybody ever felt like that? Woo! Because when God calls you to something, you will also have to go through something. And so many times we want the promises, but we don't want the process. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Oh, so you got to continue to ask yourself that question. How do you deal with it? Look at somebody and say, can you stand the rain? And see, some of us are waiting on that good rain. Some of us are waiting on the rain in Deuteronomy. We're waiting on it to say, and it shall be that if you earnestly obey my commandments, which I command you today, to the Lord your God, and serve him with all your heart and soul, then will I give you the rain for the land in this season, the early rain and the latter rain, that you may gather the grain, your wine and your oil. We want that kind of rain. But Noah won't dealing with that kind of rain, y'all. That is not the same kind of rain. So the question becomes, how do you trust God's plan when you feel like you're drowning in the rain? How do you trust God's plan when you feel like you're drowning? You know God said it. You know he gave it to you. You know he ordained it. But how do you trust God's plan when you feel like you're drowning? So let's look at it. Genesis 7. Let's look at 11 and 12. It says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, on that day, all of the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were open, and the rain was on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. Here's what I need you to understand, because some of us are praying, Lord, wash me, Lord, cleanse me. Some of us are praying for rain. But here's one of the things I need you to remember. The rain may cause you to lose everything. The rain may cause you to lose everything. See, when we think of rain, we think of frolicking, right? We think of whoo, and we think of la, la, la. And then we think of singing. La, in the shower, we think of that where we throw our hair back. And you're singing, Lord, I love you. I really love you. And we think of the rain like that. And so when we think that God is going to cleanse us and purify and send the rain for us, we think that that's what the rain looks like. How many know that ain't what rain looks like, y'all? Anybody ever been in a storm in your life, at your house? Anybody ever been in a storm? The rain don't sound like that. And so we're praying, God, send your, it used to be a song where a guy, we used to go to tent revival, and he'd be like, send the rain, send the rain, send the rain, send the rain. And I'd be like, man, stop praying that prayer. This tent ain't that strong. And so what's got to happen is what you are building, has got to be strong enough to withstand that rain. Because some of us want to find favor with God. Some of us want the promises of God. Some of us want the rain to wipe us a clean slate and to purify us, but we don't want to lose anything. Some of us want to do over. Some of us want to start, but we want to start with everything that we had before we prayed for the rain. But y'all, it don't always work like that. See, the rain was for purification, but the rain during this time was also for judgment. And although Noah was spared, there were people and things and birds and animals and anything that was outside of that ark that didn't make it. So God was using this rain to cleanse the earth. Some of you are going through some situations of rain and periods of storm and flood because God needs to clear out everything around you so that he can rebuild you the way that he needs to do it. And so God is promising you rain, but sometimes it don't look like what you think it look like. Sometimes it looks like losing your friends. Sometimes it looks like leaving people behind or leaving things behind. Sometimes it looks like leaving even life as you know it to go after and start what God called you to. So the question again is, can you stand the rain? Everybody's ready to rock and roll, and we want the promises, and we waiting for the big mansion on the other side. But you gotta go through the flood to get there. Nobody wants to go through the flood at times. So the question becomes, can you stand the rain? Because what happens with water and with rain is purification. And purification process is more complex than you think it is. The purification process means identifying impurities. Then it means cleansing or removing those impurities. And then it means refining you so that you can be prepared for what's next. Some of us want to be purified, but we don't want to identify any of our impurities. We don't want to be cleansed, and then we don't want to be refined. So in order for us to get where God has called us to, y'all, we got to be willing to stand the rain. But this flood wasn't to destroy Noah. It was to destroy the corruption. Some of us are going through some situations because God is trying to take away the corruption that's around you, and he's trying to get you in a place where you can completely depend on him and his provision, because sometimes we think we did what God did. So every once in a while, he has to get rid of everything that's going on around you so that you can recognize that this ain't even about you no more. Verse number 21, it says, and all flesh died that moved on the earth, birds and cattle and beasts and every creeping thing. Verse number 23 says, so he destroyed all living things which were on the face of the earth. And so he did this because Noah was in the ark. God had him in the ark to protect him. So the ark was a sign of protection. But sometimes when God is protecting you, it feels like you're losing everything around you. Because sometimes we're more attached to the things that are going on around us or to physical things than we are to God. So sometimes the destruction that's going on around us, it's hard to acknowledge that God is keeping us because we're losing other stuff that we feel is valuable. But God had to reset the earth. And there's some times that God has to reset what's going on in your life. And it'll feel like you're losing everything. But he's purifying you. But the ark was for your protection. Look at somebody and say, it was for my protection. What I went through was for my protection. Leaving that town was for my protection. Losing those friends were for my protection. Getting out of that house was for my protection. Getting out of that relationship, it was for my protection. Some of the things that you are going through in your life, you think are there to kill you, but God is preserving you, and they are for your protection. Let's keep going. Verse number 18. It says, the waters prevailed, and they greatly increased. And I don't know if you've ever studied the magnitude of the flood. I mean, it's scientific evidence that shows the power and how big the flood was. It says the waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth, and all the hills under the whole heaven were covered. The waters prevailed 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered, and all flesh died. And so we think of Noah being in this ark as just this quiet, protected place. But I'm going to tell you the second thing you got to remember when you're being protected. You've got to tune out all other noise. You got to tune out all the other noise. You got to tune out all the other noise. So Noah was in this ark, and this ark was set up for his protection. But in this ark, y'all, this ark was made out of wood and pitch, and it was raining, and the ark was rocking. Not was the ark just moving around like you were on a cruise. The ark is hitting the top of mountains. The ark it is raining. This is like a cataclysmic event that has never happened on the face of the earth. And God charged Noah with building a boat or ark of protection that would keep him through something that was going to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. So it wasn't what you think it was, and it was just rocking a little bit. And he told him, he said, it was all these animals in here. When I began to research it, this says 15 cubits above the highest mountains. That is 22 to 23 feet higher than the tallest part of the land. Can you imagine how scary it would have been to been in this ship, to be in this ark? This wasn't like Carnival's Icon of the Seas, right? Which Charm and them like to go on around Christmas. So if you don't see her, we're going to pray for her. But that is not the same. You are not roughing it on that cruise ship, Charm. But you are enclosed in that place for your protection. But in this place is also thousands of animals. So look at Genesis 7, 1 through 3. It says, the Lord said to Noah, go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Now, you said, God, you found me righteous in this generation, but I'm going to go in this big old ship with these thousands of animals for rain for 40 days. I got to feed them. I got to try to eat. I got my wife. I got my kids. And then after I get out of here, I got to replenish the earth. And you looking like, every once in a while, you kind of say, God, I wish you could have chose somebody else. Sometimes when God calls you to do something, you look like, well, God, what's the other side of this? Do I have another choice? Because sometimes to go through what you got to go through to do what God called you to, it's tougher sometimes than you feel like the people that ain't even living for God. Oh! Sometimes you look at people that may not be in the church, they may not be involved, and you come in at 8:30 in the morning, Karima, and you tired, and you sleeping, you done worked all week, you like, I just want to go to bed, and you looking like, well, sister so-and-so ain't even got to go to church. Why can't I just be like her? Because God called you to it. So guess what? Even that mindset is noise. You got to tune out. You got to tune out the noise. So it was noisy in this ship. And I'm trying to paint the picture. Y'all, I wanted to turn the lights out. I wanted to make it thunder and rain, and I wanted to spray water in the hair. Because the thing you got to think about, we think of this as, God just, sent the rain and it flooded and people. No, this was something that was so difficult. They only had one window in this ship. They had one window in the ark. And it had thousands of animals, and they stinking, and they going to the bathroom, and you got to feed them. I was doing some study. It was saying Moses probably didn't do a whole bunch of sleep. During this time, he had to take care of these animals because he had to also sacrifice back to God when he got on dry land. So that's why he had to have so many. Let's keep reading. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. This story is so good to me, y'all. It's so good. It said, take with you 7 pairs. A lot of times we see that picture of the 2x2 and you see one giraffe and then another giraffe. But you got to think all of the animals that were on the earth at this time. It says 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and his mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and his mate. It says, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their variations various kinds alive throughout the earth. So Noah is dealing with the noise. He's dealing with these roaring animals. He's dealing with the sound of this wood creaking. He's dealing with the sound of the ark hitting the top of mountains. He's dealing with periods of no rain. And he's only got one window that he may every once in a while be able to see just a little bit of light. Sometimes when you're doing what God called you to, you feel like, God, why am I even in this place? Sometimes God has given you a vision that's so big and you can't even see the light sometimes. And you wondering, God, did I hear you right? God, is this what you really called me to do? So imagine being 40 days in this thing with water pounding on the vessel. And a lot of times we like to think of just the rain, but it rained 40 days and 40 nights. But the water continued to go for another 150 days. Some of us have a hard time waiting for God to do something in 36 hours. We say, if I hadn't heard nothing from the Lord by Wednesday, then I'm going to go ahead and make my own decision. When you do the research, Noah was in this ark for over a year. He was in this ark for about a year because then the water had to subside. Then he had to send out the raven. Then he had to send out a dove. And he had to make sure that the water was gone before he even got out of it. How long can you stay in the rain? Even when you're doing what God called you to. You say, God, I moved here because you told me to move. But it ain't happening like you said. God, I went to them. I got married because I heard your voice. God, I went to that church, but they ain't asked me to preach yet. How long can you stay in the rain? How long am I supposed to stay at this job that don't appreciate my skill and my value? How long am I supposed to stay here when they're talking and calling me everything but a child of God? Hakeem, can you stay in the rain? My finances don't look right, but I'm tithing. I'm giving cheerfully, Joe, but it still ain't looking good over here. Can you continue to stay in the rain when the situation don't look like you thought it would? And so you get to the place where you begin to wonder, God, are you still here? You begin to say, God, why do I have to go through all this? I was obedient to you. And you start comparing yourself. And can you imagine sitting in that boat and that horse going, and all that. And you got the elephant making all that noise. And the elephant, that was a good horse, though, wasn't it? I thought that was really good. I thought that was good. I thought the horse was good. But can you imagine dealing with all of that noise? You can't get no rest, but you're trying to do what God called you to. You can't get no sleep. This ain't you spending no vacation time with your wife. This is you doing what God called you to. Can you stay in the rain? And so we've got to get to the place where we tune out that noise, and we got to believe what it says in Isaiah 26:3. Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. You've got to let God keep you in perfect peace. You have got to continue to renew your mind. Even when things don't look like that you want them to look like, if you know you're doing what God called you, you got to begin to tune out the noise. Because God is busy wiping away everything else that he needs to wipe out so that he can protect you and start all over. See, the rain was a tool of judgment, and even when it gets noisy, God has sent this rain to cleanse the earth. It just doesn't always look like what we think it looks like. Sometimes that cleansing, we have to lose something when God is cleansing us. So Noah was here for about a year. Let's wrap this thing up. Genesis 8:1, and we're almost done. Genesis 8:1. It says, then, I want you to highlight this. This is so good. Then God remembered Noah. I want you to highlight, then God remembered Noah. And I want you to write your name there. Because sometimes we get to a place where we've gone through so much, or we've dealt with so much, or we're doing so much that we think God has forgotten about us. I want you to highlight that. Then God remembered Noah and every living thing. Now keep in mind, every living thing was what was in this ark that God protected. God can protect you even through a flood, y'all. Then God remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the animals that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. Point number 3, it's just real easy. I need you. God will remember you. God will remember you. See, you've got to know that if God made a covenant with you, if God made a promise to you, then God will keep his promises. You've got to know that God will keep his promises. And see, we've got to make sure we understand what the word remember means. See, sometimes we think of it in just, did he forget us? No, it's not the fact that he forgot. The word remember in this context means to recall or to bring to mind or act upon what is remembered. So in the Old Testament, remembers, it's different. It doesn't mean that he forgot. It just means that he acts faithfully toward his covenant with you. If you can stand the rain, God will act in accordance with the covenant that he made with you. I need you to understand that God keeps his promises. See, in the Bible, God remembered Abraham, and he spared Lot. God remembered Hannah. God remembered Rachel. And God remembered the children of Israel. So that lets me know that even though you're dealing with a situation of purification, even though you're dealing with a time of cleansing, even though you're dealing with the rain and stuff around you seems like it's being destroyed, not only will he remember those people, but God will remember you. Somebody stand to your feet and give God a praise.